Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. And today we got a video for you about the history of Fleet Week, because very shortly in October 2025, the US Navy is celebrating its 250th anniversary. It was founded right here on the Delaware River in Philadelphia on October 13th, 1775. And they are celebrating with an event that's very similar to a Fleet Week. So for Navy 250, this is just the latest in a number of Navy celebrations that have been going on over time. The Delaware River makes an excellent place to host an event like this. I don't know if there's ever been a modern Fleet Week type event here in the Camden, Philadelphia area, but the Navy founded right here in Philadelphia. That's the old Continental Navy. And then the new United States Navy, well, right across the river from where we are, at roughly right where the Coast Guard yard currently is, that was where Joshua Humphrey's shipyard was, where he designed the first 6 frigates of the United States Navy and built USS United States. Well, technically she wasn't even USS yet. United States frigate, United States, right there. This remained a major shipbuilding area, and soon William Crampson's sons opened a shipyard. The Navy Yard outgrew the former Humphreys Yard and moved down to where Battleship New Jersey was built. And of course, right where we are in Camden, became New York ships. In fact, 1/3 of the warships that fight during World War II for the United States are built right here on the Delaware River. Post-World War II, shipbuilding really goes down in this area, with the last major warship being built here in Camden being USS Kitty Hawk back in the 60s. Philadelphia Navy Yard doesn't last much longer. While it does some maintenance up into the 80s, Brax closes it down in the 90s. And so shipbuilding completely moves from this area. But that doesn't mean that there isn't still a lot of naval heritage here, such as Battleship New Jersey, and you can probably see right across the river there, the cruiser Olympia and the submarine Bakuna. So this is where the Navy chose, and the Marine Corps, because they're celebrating their 250th anniversary, November 10th is that date, but they're going to be celebrating it during the same week as the Navy 250 event. So for all intents and purposes, I'm going to say Navy 250 for the rest of this. The Navy's just a shorter syllable word count than saying Navy and Marine Corps, but I mean both the Navy and the Marine Corps because they're both going to be here for the event. As far as events like this, the first thing that you could probably consider a Fleet Week type thing took place in New York in 1899. In that year, right after winning the Spanish-American War, Commodore Dewey, actually he might have been an admiral by then, but Admiral George Dewey brings ships into New York City, and they have a big parade and other things, and the ships are open for people to view. And that's probably the first modern event that's very similar to a Fleet Week. In 1908, San Francisco holds a very similar type of event, this time for the 46 warships of the Great White Fleet, which have now made their way all the way around the Americas from Norfolk and are hitting San Francisco before starting out across the Pacific. So huge event then, ships open for tours, same sort of deal. Something like 16 battleships are present for that event. The next sort of event like this, it's still not quite called a Fleet Week yet, but something that we would recognize as a Fleet Week today was in 1935. FDR wants to emulate Teddy Roosevelt. He also wants to put on a show of force, because at this point the world is really starting to deteriorate towards what would become World War II in just 4 short years. Arguably, World War II would begin in another year when Japan starts its wars in China. But to try and stop that, FDR sends 114 warships and 400 aircraft. That takes place in San Diego during the American Exposition. That's probably the high water mark for numbers of aircraft and ships to participate in a Fleet Week type event. If we did an event like that now, that would require half of the active warships to go to one city at one time, which functionally is impossible. They're spread out around the world, and 1/3 of them are down for maintenance at any given time, 1/3 are out for training, only 1/3 are actually deployable. The next kind of similar event, still not quite a Fleet Week, but something very similar, happens in October of 1945. Having won the war, with the surrender ceremony happening at the beginning of September, the US Navy is sort of partitioned, and different ships, usually ships with really important combat records, are dispatched to different cities around the country. Probably the most emblematic from this event is the New York victory celebrations, which include the Battleship Missouri, the aircraft carrier Enterprise, and a number of other ships. So here's a picture of that. You can see all the ships anchored out on the Hudson River, boating people out for tours and things like that. So really big celebration of that victory. And this is, again, New York is the most famous one, but it's happening in maritime cities all over the country. The true modern Fleet Week as we know it starts in San Francisco in 1981. The famous New York Fleet Week starts a year later in 1982. At least one Iowa-class battleship will participate in New York Fleet Weeks during the 1980s. Iowa definitely does. I think Missouri might also at one time or another. But those are probably the only Fleet Week events that these ships participate in. Until, of course, we get to the 21st century when you see ships like Iowa participating very heavily in the Los Angeles Fleet Week, and now New Jersey will be participating in the Navy 250 event happening here in the Philadelphia-Camden area. Fleet Weeks are incredibly important for people to connect with the Navy. Back during these earlier events like the 1935 or the 1945 events, the odds were you had a family member who was in the military. Nowadays, it's something like less than 2% of Americans have a family member who has served. So the transition to the all-volunteer military has kind of separated Americans from service members in a way that didn't exist back when there was a draft, especially when there was a war where you're drafting 14 million men in uniform. So since that connection doesn't exist, these events are really great ways for the Navy to show people what they do. The Navy hasn't fought a traditional naval battle, carrier versus carrier, battleship versus battleship, since 1944. So like the concept of what the Navy does isn't really in the public imagination. Check out this from a 2021 Gallup poll where 40% of Americans think that the Air Force operates aircraft carriers. So events like this are incredibly important for the Navy to connect with the public. And adding new locations like Philadelphia to the list of spots where they do this is a fantastic opportunity for them. So first off, if you're interested in attending, there's a link in the description below for the Navy and Marine Corps Homecoming 250 events, and that's got the list of everything that's happening, so you can keep track of that. But some of the important things going on: October 9th is the parade of ships when they're coming in. That's when opening receptions are going to be held. That's when we're unveiling the Enterprise stern plate at its new location here at Battleship New Jersey. That's when a number of other events are kicking off. Throughout the weekend, there are going to be flyovers by Navy and Marine Corps aircraft, both fixed wing and rotary aircraft, both Navy and Marine Corps. So you don't even have to participate. You're just going to hear them rattling your windows as they go by. And they're going to make a big loop right around the Delaware River area. In fact, some of them are even going to make it all the way out to Pittsburgh. The Blue Angels will be performing on Monday. They're a staple of Fleet Week. Friday night, the Battleship is hosting a traditional smoker event. Smokers are boxing matches held on board the ship, and we're going to set up the ring and have the match on the fantail, just like would have happened historically. Saturday is Family Fun Day on board the Battleship, so we're going to have a number of extra family-friendly activities around the ship. The ship will be open for tours. Actually, we're going to go to extended hours during much of the time that the Navy is here. So instead of our normal 10 to 5:30 hours, we will be open from 8 to 6. with last boarding at 5 o'clock. So don't show up after 5 expecting to get a ticket. You wouldn't have enough time to see the ship anyway. Now, one really cool thing is several Navy warships are going to be in the area, either tied up in Philadelphia, across the river from us near Independence Seaport Museum, or down at the Philadelphia Navy Yard. There's going to be an Arleigh Burke destroyer down at the Gloucester Marine Terminal, and down at the Gloucester Marine Terminal where Battleship New Jersey ballasted before going into dry dock, and we're going to have a littoral combat ship tied up outboard of the battleship. The Navy ships will be free to tour. Be sure to stay tuned for their hours of operation. They will be different from the museum's hours of operations. You can come out and visit the museum anytime with a ticket price. You can get on the Navy ships when they're open for free. On Monday, October 13th, the actual 250th anniversary, there are going to be fireworks here on the Delaware River. And you can come and watch those fireworks from right on board Battleship New Jersey. In today's video, I didn't even mention all the things that are happening on the battleship, much less events happening in the greater Philadelphia-Camden area. So again, go check out that Navy Marine Corps Homecoming 250 website to get an idea of all of the events that are happening. Stay focused on that website. Save it to your favorites bar because there are new events being added, new stuff happening, and the details are firming up, such as who's going to be attending each of the events, speakers, admirals, things like that, so that you can follow. I'm going to be at many of these events, ones that I can't make it to. Some of my coworkers from here at the museum are going to attend, so hopefully we will see you at these events. Yeah, let us know in the comment section down below which events you plan on coming to, and if you've been to any Fleet Weeks in the past. The last Fleet Week I went to was the one that was held in Baltimore in 2014 for the 200th anniversary of the end of the War of 1812. That was a pretty big event. I'm looking forward to this one blowing it out of the water. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, also from a number of other businesses and private individuals like yourselves. We really appreciate your support. There's a link in the description below if you'd like to donate to support the museum. You can also support us by liking, sharing, and subscribing so more people find out about the museum and our channel. Thanks for watching.